Greetings, this is Tim Patterson, Trade Show Guy of Trade Show Guy Exhibits in Salem, Oregon. It is August 21st, 2017, and you can find me online at TradeshowGuyblog.com. I'm also the author of Trade Show Success, 14 Proven Steps to Take Your Trade Show Marketing to the Next Level. You can pick it up on Amazon for under $20 or get a free digital copy by going to TradeshowSuccessBook.com. That'll opt you into my newsletter. Today on the show, I've got an interview with Diane Weiss-Jones of DJ Public Relations to talk about public relations. Should be fun conversation. Well, I know it was because it's already pre-recorded. What is public relations? What works best? How to tell a story? And more. I chatted with Diane previously so that we could make this work out. I'm actually on vacation as you're watching this being released on Monday, the 21st of August. So let's get to it. So we've got Diane Weiss-Jones with us this morning from DJ Publicity. Good morning or good afternoon or whatever the case may be. Diane, how are you today?
I'm good. It's actually DJ Public Relations.
DJ Public Relations. I want to make sure I get that right. So public relations is sort of this nebulous umbrella that so many things fall under. And I've heard the phrase, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Do you agree with that?
I don't know if I would agree with that. Publicity and public relations are a little bit different. Publicity kind of falls under the public relations umbrella. Yeah. There can be bad publicity. I would say you can't have bad publicity, but if you do public relations right, it can be very good for your company.
So what kind of publicity or public relations are companies looking for that they can actually work through in some sort of a system and do it, systematically to get it out there? What kind of things can be done?
Well, public relations can work for any business, and it's important that a public relations plan or your public relations goals match up with your business goals. So if your business or your organization or your association, if you're a business and you're selling a widget, your public relations goal should be to do public relations activities that help sell those widgets. If it's an association, it's to that wants to get members, it's to do public relations activities that will help it get members. Your public relations should always tie into your bottom line. And there's several things that you can do. One of the biggest things that we do in public relations is work with media. And there's actually 3 different types of media that you can work with to help get your public relations messages, your business messages out there. And actually, a good friend of mine, Jesse Landis, who does Landis Media and Media and Messaging in St. Petersburg, just told me these yesterday, and I thought this is a great way to break it down. There's earned media, there's owned media, and there's paid media. And businesses can do all 3 of those to help get their message out to the publics that affect them.
So what's the difference between earned and owned? Certainly paid media is advertising and things like that. So what is the difference between earned media and owned media?
So earned media is when you do public relations in order to, say, get a story in the New York Times or your local newspaper, or to get a TV story. You're trying to get publicity. You're trying to get a story that you don't pay for, you earn it, but that someone else puts out there. In the PR field, we do that usually by putting out news releases about a company or something that's happening, or we make pitches directly to the reporter. And an important thing there is to remember to shape your message in a way that's going to get that reporter's attention. Just telling a company that we've created this new widget and we want you to talk about it, that's not really newsworthy. That's not going to get a reporter's attention. But if you tell the reporter, hey, we created a new widget, say, for example, you work in a pharmaceutical company and you created a new way to test diabetics' blood that doesn't require them to prick themselves. So instead of saying, we created this new product to help that's going to help diabetics, you instead say, Jane Smith, who's 12 years old, has to prick her fingers 10 times a day. Our new product will help her, save her from that moving on in her life. You bring it around and include a human element so that it is more newsworthy, it touches the heart, and it's more likely to get picked up. So earned media is when someone else tells your story, someone else is reporting your news for you, and you don't pay for it.
So the best thing, of course, is like a local TV camera crew likes it so much. A TV station, they send a crew out to your place and interviews you, for instance, and then walks through your business and whatever that may be, so that you're getting something that they're basically on their dime, and you're getting free exposure as a result of something that you're doing internally. So that would be earned media. So what's owned media?
So owned media is actually what the types of media, the types of communication tools that you and your company own and you control the message on. Anything from newsletters, your website is your owned media. This podcast is your owned media. You control the message on this. Blogs are huge right now. You're controlling your message on blogs that you write. Social media is owned media. You own your company's Facebook page, Twitter page, LinkedIn, Instagram. Those are all communication tools, media tools that you can use to get your message out about your company. And what's great about owned media is that Google really rewards businesses who create good, interesting, shareable content, meaning, as a business, we always want to be at the top of the Google page when somebody does a search. There's a joke, where do you hide a dead body, on the second page of Google results? Because nobody goes to the second page of Google results.
I've never heard that before. I like that.
So you want to be on that first page. And Google will reward you if you put out good, original, shareable content on a regular basis. So if you keep your Facebook page updated, if you post blog posts to your website, if you share information that other people can share, if you make your own media very interactive and like I said, unique and original, not stagnant, Google will reward you, and it'll have an easier chance of finding you when people do search results. So that owned media is so important to use as a business, and like I said, to keep it fresh and new and shareable.
And we could talk about blogging all day. It's one of my favorite subjects. But and I'm not the first to say this, but I've always felt that having a blog is the best piece of real estate you can have online, because you can own the URL, you can own everything about it except for the company that's actually serving that, hosting that. But you own all the content. You control everything. And, I always thought you need to put good content on there that people can find, that's interesting, that solves a problem, satisfies a need, makes people interested, so that it is worth sharing, as opposed to using it as a platform to just brag about yourself and say, hey, our manager won a new award. People don't care about that. They want to know how you can solve a problem. And that's, to me, what a blog is really important at. And the other thing about a blog is you can do multimedia on it, video, audio, images, everything can show up on that platform. It's just so useful.
And once you've done your blog and you posted it on your website, then share it on Facebook,
exactly,
share it on Twitter, put it in your e-newsletter that you send monthly to your customers or your employees, and use the other sources that you have that are free to you to get that message out there.
So let's go back to earned media. When you do this with a company and you place a story, for instance, in a local paper or a national paper, do you actually put a value on that earned media? Is that something you guys try and calculate internally? Is that important?
It's interesting because when I started in PR over 20 years ago, we did put a value, a PR value on news stories, and that was because really. And it is true today, people put more value on a story that they read in the newspaper, an article in the newspaper, as opposed to an advertisement, because obviously they know that an advertisement is placed by the company and a story is not. So, and 20 years ago, and still today, if somebody wants to use it, the value of that was 2.5 times the ad value. So when I was an intern, I spent my time taking news articles and finding the advertising rate, and 2.5 times that, and that's the PR value. We don't really do that as much today, because there's so many more outlets and so many more communication opportunities for us. But I think it pretty much goes without saying that getting a story placed, especially in a reputable paper, has a tremendous value, tremendous public relations value. And then if you create something, again, that is shareable, that you put out there, and then people start sharing it on Facebook and sharing it on their other social networks, I mean, the PR value is just huge. But it comes back to all that is great, but are you helping the business achieve the bottom line? Does your article help that company sell their widget or
Right.
get that referendum passed? And that's a little bit harder to measure, but that again is something we have to keep in the back of our minds all the time.
Right, and I, I've had my company appear in print a few times. Press releases get published, and people have done stories. Not a lot, but it's nice to have that. It's something you can point to, something you can put on your website to say, "Hey, I was covered in the local paper here," and But the question does it make the phone ring, or does it make people order stuff from you? And that's they may have your brand more top of mind. They might know who you are, but will they remember you when it's time to order something that you can offer? And that's the challenging question, I think. So.
It is, and that's one of the things we do have to tell clients, that if you can't expect an immediate turnaround all the time. But again, you're building brand awareness, you're building trust in the company. I work with some clients, and we do guest columns in local newspapers where they're just giving their information, a financial services company and a law firm too that come to mind, and they're just giving out this information that they know for free to help people. And that's what we all should be doing. We should be helping people, but it helps these people. But when they come around to say, you know what, I could probably use a professional to help me, when they get to that point, our goal is for them to think, you know what, I remember reading in the paper this company, this guest column, or, oh, I remember reading about that. That's who I want to use. You're building up trust. You're building up brand awareness. You're building up visibility for your business. So when somebody does decide to make a buying decision, they do come to you.
Right.
Or
so a couple,
do that Google search, they see you and they see positive results in the Google
right.
search.
Right. So a couple of other things I'm curious about. You mentioned when we chatted earlier about, I think you made a comment, no amount of public relations can make up for bad customer service. I'm curious. Let's get your take on that, because obviously you've had experience. Bad customer service is what it is.
It is. And I got that from the great Peter Shankman. He is the one that really touts the importance of customer service, and the best public relations is good customer service. So we can do everything we can to get you publicity and exposure. But if then the customer comes back and has a bad experience at your business, you've kind of done it for naught. And unfortunately, that person is then going to go onto their social media platforms and tell their friends and family what a bad experience they had. And that's exactly what we don't want. So make sure that your product is where it needs to be. Your service levels are where they need to be before you decide to go out and publicize them.
And I remember speaking a couple years ago to the name tag guy, Scott Ginsburg, and I asked him, how do you promote yourself as a speaker? And he says, I just give a kick-ass speech every time. And so if you're giving something that people can't get enough of, you're going to do well. And sometimes you have to tell that story.
It
takes a PR person.
It's interesting you said that. It is so much storytelling. What we do in our business is storytelling. When I go work with a client, when I start working with a new client, I really want to get in there and I start asking scum questions that they may think are crazy, but I've asked them about their personal life, their community involvement, their likes, their dislikes, their history, so that because what may be a great story may not just pop out at you, and what the CEO says, I want to promote this, I want to get this. Well, that's great, but that's not a good story. What is a better story is how you clawed your way out of nothing and built this business. That's a better story. I work with a company, a private aircraft charter company, and the owner of the company, who is now obviously doing very well, started throwing bags for United Airlines. That's where he started. That's a great story. That's a wonderful, success story that people want to hear about. And let me tell that story. And in the end, by the way, this is, he's built an amazing business, and you probably would, if you'd like to work with him, here's how you do it.
Right. So one last thing, I'm curious to know if someone's looking for a PR company, how do they vet someone? What kind of things do they look for? What kind of questions should they ask?
That's a great question. I will say that there is an accreditation process in public relations. It's called the Accreditation in Public Relations. Not really unique there. It's the APR. And that is something that I have my APR. I'm very proud of it. So if you're working with a public relations professional, you might want to ask them if they have their APR. There's several organizations, professional associations that we belong to. I belong to the Public Relations Society of America. Here in Florida, we also have the Florida Public Relations Association. So being involved in an association is another way to kind of acknowledge the importance of what we do and the fact that we are committed to our profession. And then honestly, most of the work that I get is referrals, which is, in any business, that's what you want. But
Right.
having, if you see someone doing a great job, if you see a business getting great stories placed or doing a really good job communicating with the various publics that affect them, ask them who they use for public relations. Some people, have in-house PR people. Some people use smaller companies, use agencies or independent consultants like myself.
Well, I appreciate it, Diane. We're speaking with Diane Weiss Jones, who's got the company called DJ Public Relations. What's the best way to find you, Diane?
Well, my website is djpublicrelations.com. My Twitter is DJPRTampa.
Okay.
And then, of course, you can find me. I have a Facebook page, and my email is diane@djpublicrelations.com.
Very good. Diane, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us here on the Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee.
Thank you so much.
Very nice. Want to thank Diane Weiss Jones of DJ Public Relations for joining me on the show today. Check the show links at TradeshowGuyBlog.com for information on how to get through to her. Today's trade show tip: how should you price things for an exhibiting program? Well, that's a question I get, or some form of it, quite frequently, actually. The question often comes up in regards to how much does it cost to get a new exhibit made, or how much to upgrade something on an existing exhibit. But there are a lot of moving parts to answering that question. So I start asking questions before I can answer the question. I think ultimately you need to have an internal discussion in your company that covers things such as exhibiting goals, schedule, number of shows you'll likely be at, with the type of presence you desire at each show, along with available budget and where does that budget come from. That's all internal. And what might happen if you don't go to certain shows, or what might happen if you don't go to any shows at all? Will that curtail your sales? Those types of things. Is there a big downside to not going to shows? So there's no easy answer. The question is part of a larger discussion of what you want to accomplish with an exhibiting program. Are you there for just a single show? Is that it? Just one show? Maybe next year you do the same show. If you get something out of this show, a lot of planning should go into that show. Are you doing 6 shows or 10 or 20 a year? Are there some shows that you have to be at that you feel, and some that you would just like to be at? Again, a longer conversation. I think going over your costs regularly is very important. You should know how much drayage costs, how much shipping costs, how much new exhibits cost, how much upgrading graphics cost, how much travel and logistics for all your shows are, how much labor costs are, so on and so forth. The more you know, the better informed your decisions will be. So I want to finish up the show with one good thing. For the last 25 years, hit or miss, I've mostly gone to a show. Speaking of shows, at Pebble Beach, 18th Fairway, it's the Concours d'Elegance. It's 60, 70 years they've been doing this show. Hundreds of cars, vintage, expensive, exquisite cars line the fairway, 18th Fairway at Pebble Beach. It's the Concours d'Elegance, and I'm back there. Actually, I was, by the time this is released on Monday the 21st, it will have been yesterday. So it was a great show, I'm sure. I know because I've been to many of these. So that's the one good thing. I've been going for a quarter of a century. Great way to spend a Sunday afternoon is at Pebble Beach in the third weekend of August to see the Concours d'Elegance. So that's what I've been doing. Hey, have a great week. Catch you next weekend.